for those of you who are not aware, there was a Ukrainian war until recently, and it's over now. So if you missed it, well, you got to go back in history to find out what it was all about. Yeah, the war in Ukraine is over, and it's over because all the fun has already happened. Now it's just a war of attrition. Now it's just throwing bombs, destroying cities. I'm not sure that's going to change very much. Maybe they reach an agreement, finally shake hands, and they all try to come out as if they won the war. That's typical if they reach some kind of a truce. But the war is over. All the fun is over. All the penalties, all the things that they were going to do, that's already happened. Right now, I think it's just going to be the same old every day. Unless, which I doubt, they start pressing those red buttons. I don't think that's going to happen. Um, my guess on that, my take. But if that happens, we're all in trouble. Then extinction will happen a little sooner than what I thought. But no, if things continue as they are now, it's just going to be a war of attrition. And essentially, the winner here is the United States. It's the only country that has won here. Russia has lost already. Ukraine has lost already. Europe, as a continent, has lost already. The only winners, China also, I think, has lost to some degree, okay, because they're going to be applying a little bit of pressure on the Chinese. I think the only country that really comes out on top here is the United States. So it was a good move, very sagacious move on the part of the United States government. Whether it's going to have some long-term consequences, we don't know. You know, it's anybody's guess. But anyways, here's the little note, little headline that happened this week that caught my eye. Okay, and I want to comment on this. Okay, Biden says warns of real food shortage risk over Russia's invasion into Ukraine. And he warned on Thursday that there would be global food shortages resulting from the Russian invasion of Ukraine and announced steps to prevent a potential crisis. Okay, we did talk about food shortages, and it's going to be real. The price of these sanctions is not just imposed upon Russia, it's imposed upon an awful lot of countries as well, including European countries and our country as well, Biden said. Both Russia and Ukraine, for example, are providers of wheat, though he pointed out that the US and Canada are also major wheat producers. Okay? And the president announced his intention to redouble combined efforts with the European Union to increase global food security, provide direct food aid where warranted to prevent a crisis in a joint statement, etc., right? The president said NATO leaders talked about urging all European countries and everyone else to end trade restrictions on limitations on sending food abroad. Okay? And U.S. and its allies, Biden said, are in the process of working out how to alleviate food shortage concerns and rising inflation and lingering supply chain issues. Okay, and so why do I raise this issue? Well, as you know, I'm saying that the extinction of man is going to come as a result of food. And some people might look at this article or something similar, or another article similar to this, and say, "Oh, Bill, there's your theory: food shortages." Okay, that's what I want to clarify. This is not about my theory at all. Okay, this has to do with the United States trying to push Russia and Ukraine aside, both countries, so that it can supply the world with more wheat. Okay, this has to do with business, with politics, not with my theory. My theory says something a little different. Okay, it says that money will be no more. Money will collapse. Nobody will believe in money. Nobody will accept money, any kind of money. They won't accept gold. They won't accept Bitcoin or any crypto coin. They won't accept dollars or euros. Nobody will accept money, okay, because the global economy has collapsed. Because nobody accepts money, no one produces food, especially the corporations that today produce and distribute food, and therefore food doesn't get to where it has to go, which is to the cities. The cities starve to death, primarily the cities, but just about everyone who depends on buying their food. Suddenly there's no food to buy because there's nothing to buy it with because nobody will accept whatever you offer them. That's the theory. So when these people talk about food shortages, we're talking about something else. We're talking about politics. We're talking about business. We're talking about moving Russia out of the picture so that the United States can take that same spot. Same with energy. Same with weapons. The United States now compelled Germany to buy or to invest $112 billion in military equipment, defense, and guess who they're going to buy it from? Guess who the seller is going to be? How about wheat? Same thing. Who's going to sell it? Hey, Canada and the United States, and so on and so forth. So what this war means for the United States is a big coup overall, on the market. The United States is hoping to take the spot that Russia had, at least with Europe, okay, and possibly even with other countries. So it's got little to do with my theory. My theory is something different. My theory says again that the economy, global economy, has to collapse first. Okay, why will it collapse? Well, a series of reasons. Maybe a couple of them to mention is one: population is not increasing at the rate it has been in the past. It's the global growth rate, global growth rate, world, right? Total population of the world, right? The global growth rate is steadily coming down. Okay, and that's important. Steadily. It's no longer like what happened in the 14th century. People say, well, we had a crash in the 14th century, we recovered. This is something totally different. In those days, population was young. Today, the population is old. The reason we're not having children, the reason the growth rate is going down is we're old and we move to the cities. And there's issues of economics and culture as well, but those would be the primary ones. And then the other one is that the jobs we're creating are not jobs. Okay, when you create a job in the service industry, you're not creating much of a job. But when you create them within the service industry, in the internet business, in the internet world, you're talking about ads, you're talking about entertainment. That's not work, not at all. Okay, so we're creating that kind of work, which is not work for real. And again, like I say, if you're standing up there with God looking at the world, right, what do you see? Well, what you see is what's there, what exists. What you see are the railroads, you see the bridges, you see the houses, you even see the food being grown in the fields, maybe the cows. What you don't see are the services. What you don't see are the internet services. You don't see entertainment. There's no such thing that you can see out there called entertainment. You just see someone moving his hands, that's all. And you don't see any product from that, just maybe a smile. Entertainment, what is that? So, when you create internet jobs, you're not creating jobs at all. So we're not creating jobs. That's the problem. Okay, and so that together with the fact that we're moving from the country to the city, a process known as transition, we're becoming urbanites. There's this global movement, global, okay? Every country is becoming urbanized. Okay, people are abandoning the farms, the lands, the big tracts of lands, and those are being bought out by the few corporations that mass produce food and deliver them to the cities. So this process is going on everywhere, and we can't stop it. It's because it's in the self-interest of the corporations to do it. A lot of the farmers, they have no choice because they had debt and they can't pay for it, so they sell their land. Others prefer the lifestyle in the city, especially the new generations. So that transition is unstoppable. There's no way you can overturn that and go back to the country. Now, people say, well, some people go to the country. Yeah, usually they go to the villages because they don't like the hustle and bustle of the city, but it's not like they're going to be farmers. They're going to smaller towns, but they're living just like they lived in the city. Instead of living in an apartment, they live in a house. That's all the only difference. But it's not like they're going to the fields to produce food. That's what I mean. They're not being subsistence farmers by any chance of the imagination. So yeah, the theory of extinction has to do with food, but it's got nothing to do with the scarcity of food, which is being produced now. And part of that scarcity has to do with raising prices. I was keeping track here in Germany. I go to the store and I'm paying for what is it for a couple items that I buy, veggies, okay, and I'm paying 20 more cents in just a month, and that amounts to 20% of the price that I was paying before. So the prices are going up. You have this inflation going up, and suddenly, the especially the salary person, the people, the proletariat, all they can do is live off of their salary, and if their salary has less value at the store, among other places, right? Well, you can see what's happening here until they catch up to the new prices, to the inflation. Well, it's going to take a while. There might be strikes and who knows what else in between. Certainly, a lot of the unions are going to fight their loss of wages, their real loss of wages, right? Okay, anyways, moving on here. Fellow says, do governments have to build cities? Why not private corporations instead? I mentioned the fact that, governments, I like to pick on two of them. I'll pick on three of them, four maybe. We have land in Australia. We have land in Canada. We have land for sure in Brazil, in Argentina. These are big countries, Russia, okay? And so you have all this land that's empty land. And you say, well, I mean, we're just talking about numbers. Okay, we're not talking about quality here. We're just talking about volume, right? Well, we could fill those lands with more and more people, right? So one of the things we could do is put people in those places, create new cities. And who can do that except government? Okay, the government would have to implement some kind of policy or create some kind of incentive, especially for the youth, for the young people, to go out there, to the middle of Siberia, or in Argentina to the middle of Patagonia, right, in the middle of nowhere, and say, okay, go ahead, build a city. The era of colonization is over. Governments can't do that. They can't force people to go out there and build cities. So this fellow is saying, well, how about corporations? What if corporations somehow create, cities somehow, okay? After all, you've got something similar happened to Detroit, where the car industry was installed there, and people flocked over there because of jobs and became a big city, right? So, and there are other examples around the world. But the question is, California, gold rush and so on. So what kind of gold rush can we create? And you want to put government aside, go ahead. What gold rush can corporations create for people to go in the middle of Siberia, or in the middle of Canada up north there, or in the middle of the desert over there in Australia, and say, oh, we're going to found a new city. I claim it for the Queen of Spain. Put your flag in there. Is that ever going to happen again? Or has the era of colonization come and gone? And I'm saying corporations have no way of incentivizing and creating incentives for, especially for the young people, to go in the middle of nowhere and create a city. It's the other way around. People are moving from the country to the cities because they like the hustle and bustle. It's a place where the youth, at least, they have opportunities, maybe to develop their careers and so on. That's where the universities are, et cetera, et cetera. All of it is in the cities. So it's the other way around. The youth are leaving the country. Their parents stay behind, but they say, no, I'm going to go to the city. And so all the youths are essentially coming to the city, first to study, then to get jobs there. And, then you get stuck with a job. You're not going to go out into the country in the middle of nowhere, and, with your shovel and your pig and start creating, a new city, a new village. It doesn't happen. And I'm not sure what any corporation can do, let alone the government, right, to create some kind of interest, especially in the new generations, for people to go out there. Quite the contrary, I would say that people would rather go into apartments, play with their computers, and, pass the time away. So I don't think people are interested in going to the farms. And I'm sure that if you told 90% of the young people today, anywhere from 15 to 30 at least, to go out into the country and settle there, I don't think that one would go there. Okay, everybody's abandoning, young people. They're abandoning the country. So no, I don't know. Give me a mechanism or some kind of incentive that the companies can give to lure people into the countries. Now you might say, I don't know. One possibility is a corporation creates a plant in the middle of nowhere. Well, that already is very odd. I don't think too many companies will want to go in the middle of nowhere with no roads, no way of getting to the cities, and just put a plant there and say, okay, people, come here and work for us. Usually corporations look at where they're going to put a plant. I know this from working at AMD, and they look at places where you have education, where you have good roads, where you have good tax breaks, and all these things that they take into consideration before moving or putting a new plant, a new fabrication area or whatever, into a new place, into a new city. And usually, I'd say 99% of the time, if not 100, they go to cities. They don't go to the middle of nowhere. They don't go in the middle of the desert and say, we're going to install our plant here. No way. It doesn't happen these days, at least. Maybe in the old days of the cowboys, Kansas, in the middle of Nebraska, yeah, could happen. Not today. Okay, fellow says, Guillermo is a myopic, pedantic pessimist. I resent that. I resent the pessimist and the myopic. Pedantic, I'll accept. Believing we run out of conceptual measure like money leading into extinction isn't realistic. Well, again, like I said the other day, we have to differentiate a pessimist from a realist, okay? And that's the first thing we have to distinguish. In other words, pessimist is not a realist. A realist is someone who can explain to you something and say objectively, okay? And so that's what I try to do with extinction. A pessimist is just a guy that, without necessarily having a reason, says, oh, the world's coming to an end. yeah, that could be a pessimist. Uh, and again, it's different than the realist who would explain why the world is coming to an end. And again, I gave the example last time, one of the examples I gave, guy falling from an airplane. Okay? And we see him, the door opens somehow and the guy just fell off, right? One of the passengers. And so you see him falling and you say, oh, that guy's going to die. You're such a pessimist, Bill. No, it's not pessimist. I mean, I think that's quite realistic to think that the fellow is going to die. Right? So, yeah, I like to distinguish pessimist from realist. I'm saying I'm a realist. I give an objective explanation of why humans are coming to an end, and it's got to do also with the past. What I do is look at how did extinctions happen in the past, the ones that we can certify. We see those bones in the mountain in the middle of the rock, right? And we say, okay, here's a dinosaur. Further down, what do we see? Maybe I don't know, an archosaur. Further down you go and you see a synapsid. And further down you get an amphibian. So they're all in the different layers of rock. Okay, so you say, well, okay, how long did this take? Well, so many millions of years. And so we say, well, these animals are not around anymore. And we look at their bones, try to make an image of what that animal looked like. And we say, well, these animals don't exist anymore. So those were extinctions, okay? And so I try to explain what happened at each stage, And I'm saying Mother Nature has only one mechanism for extinction, one and only one. And that mechanism of extinction is food. It's known as economics. People say economics. Economics has to do with supply and demand curves and prices and labor and in interest rates. Uh-uh. That's man's particular economics. Mother Nature's economics is a little broader, okay? And it only has to do with food, also for humans. Okay, we manage all this stuff. We do computers, we do cars, we sell cars, we do internet, we do all this stuff. Why do we do it? So that we can eat and live one more day. Without eating, without that food, we're dead. So we need food. All the rest is just cosmetic or has to do with our particular way of doing business or economics in our world. You can't give money to a chimpanzee because look at it and say, what is this? What are you giving me? No, I want your banana. I'm giving you some money. I don't think the monkey would trade his banana for a little bit of paper. And you go to the ant hole and ask the queen ant, say, look, I'd like some of your food that you accumulated over time. And again, what are you going to offer them? Bitcoin? Gold? So no, we don't trade with the animals because no animal accepts any of our money of any kind because that's only in particular to our world. But what do we use all that money for? To exchange it for food. That's the bottom line. You can do whatever you want, but you can't live without food. Even Bill Gates, with all his money and all these other people, rich people, the Queen of England, they need to eat. Without eating, they're dead. So it doesn't matter how much money they have. If they get stuck on an island, there's no food, they're going to die. And they can have the entire treasure chest in front of them and all the things that they own, all the stock that they own, all the land that they own. It won't help them one bit. What they need at that moment in time is food. And that's all we have. What we do every day, whether we know it or not, we're trading money for food. That's it. And then we live another day, and then the next day we do the same thing. so food is the only mechanism that Mother Nature uses to create extinction, mass extinction, by the way, not background extinction. And so when we look at that, we say that all extinctions, all mass extinctions, happen in exactly the same way. It was when food disappeared that the animals disappeared. Okay, why did the food disappear? Was it because of some kind of asteroid, or maybe volcanic activity, or maybe a star that exploded nearby, a supernova or something? Not the way Mother Nature works. Mother Nature doesn't use volcanoes or supernovas or asteroids to kill species. The way she does it is over time, the plants become old, their population pyramids overturn, they lose their genetic diversity, and they go on their way out while a new, more vibrant plants that were in the background, they start covering the land and help to displace the old order. So when the plants are finally gone and the new plants have taken over the land, all the animals that depended on that old source of food, they disappear with the plants that went away. So plants and animals die at what is known as a mass extinction, more or less at the same time. That's the theory, okay? And again, it's got very little to do with Mr. Biden's politics and his threat to sell food to places that were buying it previously from the Russians and Ukrainians. Okay, so my 10 cents worth.